If you've ever been in a car accident before, then you know that it's the terrible silence afterwards that sticks with us. I remembered making a last-minute delivery and then driving home. I knew something terrible had happened and that I had been involved in an accident, but I was so confused and disoriented. I could no longer remember what caused the accident, or the last few minutes leading up to it. Despite being inside the car, I could still feel the cold chill from outside, which was actually a welcome distraction from the sharp pain in my head. I don't know how long I was out for, but the weather seemed different and I could definitely hear rain, so I wasn't in a hurry to exit the vehicle. Naturally, my first impulse was to call for help, but to my surprise, I noticed that my phone wasn't where I was expecting it to be. I checked under the seats, but all I could feel were random scraps of paper. I guess that's what I get for never cleaning out my car. I looked over my shoulder to check the back seat, but this just left me wondering how the seats got wet even though all the doors and windows were closed. As a last resort, I decided to reach for the glove compartment, but then quickly leaned back as I felt the entire car suddenly drift forward. Only after stepping out of the car did I realize it was leaning dangerously over the edge of a bridge. Fortunately, the bridge was a familiar landmark, so I knew exactly where I was, but it also meant that I was still quite far away from home, and definitely too far to walk. I looked around for any clues suggesting what might have caused the accident, which is when I saw the same old farmhouse just beyond the trees, indicating that I had only been driving for a mile or so before the crash. The rain showed no signs of letting up, and I wasn't going to risk getting back inside the car. The bridge didn't serve much of a purpose these days, as it was basically an overpass over an old reservoir that had been drained for years. I figured it would be the best place to wait until another car passed by. I cautiously descended into the abandoned reservoir and proceeded under the bridge for shelter from the pouring rain. It seemed even colder under the bridge, and rainwater was leaking in all directions. My last hope was that another vehicle was bound to show up eventually and notice my car still on the bridge. Doing my best to keep myself warm, I reluctantly waited under the bridge, counting every second that passed. I don't remember exactly how long I had been waiting before I finally heard the sound of a vehicle pulling up on the bridge. After waiting for so long under the cold, wet bridge, I didn't think twice about heading back up to the ground level, which is when I spotted a white van and two men standing in the rain. I suddenly got a really bad feeling, and it seemed increasingly unlikely that they were there with the intention of helping me. The whole situation started to make a lot more sense as I recognized the same distinct voice from the farmhouse and began listening in on their conversation.
Alone? I couldn't get a signal on his phone, so I had to get clear of the trees. We need to find him and lock him up with the others back at the house. Check under the bridge.
I knew I only had a split second to act, so I quickly descended back under the bridge, where I was immediately faced with the dilemma of not knowing from which side he was coming from. I slowly peeked around the corner to get a visual, but this was soon followed by an uncanny feeling that I was being watched. I was terrified to see the same guy from the top of the bridge now standing in front of me just a short distance away. Something I really regret was trying to cross to the other side of the reservoir as I fled, which caused me to stumble and trip over the fallen debris from above. What happened in that fraction of a second played over and over again in my head as I adjusted to the strange twist of fate that would provide me with a means of escape. The danger, however, was far from over, as the other guy then appeared on the bridge staring right down at me. I wasn't going to waste the one shot I had of getting away, so I ran for the trees. I kept on running until it felt like my chest was about to explode. I didn't want him to find me, but I had to stop in order to catch my breath. Somewhere along the way, I remembered the conversation on the bridge. Something about others being locked up. That, along with the fact that my phone and personal details such as my home address had been compromised, I decided to double back to the last place he would look and unveil the truth behind the stories. Once and for all.